Hello, this is Don Verkouwen, and I'm the organist and director of music here at Church of the Savior in Cleveland Heights. And I'm standing just outside the airbox of Austin Organ's Opus 1576, built in 1928. This instrument has been here and worshipped with us since the very first service held in our building, and has been played every week ever since. We are about to embark on a fairly large organ restoration project, and as we started to write down and try and explain all the work that needed to be done, we figured that it might help to do a video tour of the instrument and sort of explain all of the work that's going to be done as we go through the organ. So here we go. So Austin organs are unique in that you can actually access the instrument when the instrument is turned on. And so this entire first floor here is and houses all of the mechanics of the organ. The level above is mostly pipe organ chambers, and there are even more chambers set atop of the boxes that we can see here. One of the things you might be able to hear on this video is a significant amount of air leaks, and that is one of the first things that's going to be addressed in this project. But let's go inside the instrument. So if I were to push on this door as hard as I could, I would not be able to get in. That is because there is pressure on the other side of this door holding it closed. So what we have to do is actually let the air escape from the instrument and go to atmosphere so that the door will open. So let's do that now. You can hear all the air rushing out. And as it slows down, it will let us in. Here we go. So we're in this small little chamber now, and you can hear your ears pop. This is not a great place to be if you're claustrophobic, but we have two options of doors that we can go in, and we're going to select this one first. This chamber here goes to the solo tuba and pedal tuba division, and it's under 15 inches of wind, which is quite high pressure. So we're going to let the air out again. And this takes a while to get this little chamber we're in up to 15 inches. And there we go. So this is quite a small chamber because it's not run, does not run many pipes. You can see the individual actions up here for the solo tuba. And then directly behind that are the actions for the pedal tuba. Over here is the regulator that helps pressurize the air that's in here and keep it constant. We're going to explain a little more of the work that needs to go on in some of the other chambers. This is kind of tight and hard to see everything that's going on. So let's get out of here and go on to a different part of the instrument. Let the air equalize here. We're in another smallish chamber now. On the back side of the chamber we were just in. And this is the solo division. You can see some of the actions up here. Here's the regulator. But we are going to go through into another chamber. We're going to let that air equalize once again. By the way, this solo division is on 10 inches of wind, which is different from the tuba, which is on 15. So let the air equalize, and out we go. You can see we're in kind of another chamber here with lots of doors, lots of options. I joke with the staff here that I'm going to set up a couch and a bed and just live in the airbox. You know, it's bigger than a New York City apartment. So we're going to let the air equalize one more time. And we are in the swell division, which lives on 7 inches of wind. This is also the largest chamber in the organ. Luckily, work has already been done, and the electric on the organ has been completely rewired up to code, and a new solid-state system. Also, this massive regulator, along with the other regulators on the instrument, have been completely rebuilt. So that's going to be a significant cost savings as we are getting ready to embark on this organ project. Now, right up here is kind of the star of the show, and is where most of the problems on this instrument are coming from. These are the primary actions, and essentially how these work is you have electricity that comes to each one of these when you're playing a note on the keyboard. That electronic signal goes through these coils here. Now, as you know, when you send electricity through a coil, it becomes magnetized. So when this becomes magnetized, it moves this armature and lets air exhaust, and the pressure around the action forces it closed. And when that closes and you have a stop activated, it pulls down one of those round discs that you see, and above those, we call them pallets, above those sits a pipe. So that's just the basic of it, the short story version. And this material that you see is actually leather. And over time, that leather deteriorates. And as you can see here, a lot of them have developed holes or have collapsed completely. They're broken trackers. We have the proverbial chewing gum and paper clip solution going on here. And that action has left the chat completely. So all of these need to be replaced. Luckily, the design of Austin organs hasn't changed in 100 years, and they still make these actions today, and they are a direct replacement. So as we look here, we see this little hatch here, and this goes into another part of the organ. So let's crawl in here and take a peek. Here you see a lot of individual actions of various sizes, and these actions play some of the pedal stops. The pedal stops in this organ are kind of spread out all throughout, and they play at various different pitches, so it requires that they have individual actions. And as we look to our left here, let me crawl here, we are now sitting underneath the Great Division, and you can see a whole another line of those primary actions. Again, all of those need to be replaced. They appropriately call these crawling chests, and it is much easier if you are on the skinny side. However, I am not, so it takes me just a little bit more finagling to get in and out of these crawl-in chests. There we go. And we're going to leave here. Again, equalize the pressure. Open the door. And we're going to take a peek in this chamber here. We are now in the Great Division. So luckily for us, the Great Division is completely enclosed. I think every organ built should have an enclosed Great Division. It enhances the flexibility of the instrument tenfold, in my opinion. You can see it's quite dirty up here. In the back, we have the 8-foot Erzähler and Erzähler Celeste. We have the second open diapason. We then have a gross flute that actually is open wood all the way to the bottom. And then we have a 4-foot octave, a 4-foot roar flute, and then a tuba that is of 6-inch scale. So what's really impressive about this organ is we have 3 tubas. 2 of them at 6-inch scale, one here in the great, one in the solo, and then an even larger one in the pedal division. Unfortunately, the tuba in the pedal division has been replaced with a trombone very unsuccessfully. And part of the scope is going to be to return it to a vintage Austin tuba. One more interesting thing is in here is the original 1928 Austin actually had a 5-rank mixture. We usually don't associate large mixtures or mixtures at all with early 20th century instruments. However, this was original to the organ. Unfortunately, it was changed a bit, but part of the scope of the work is to put it back to its original composition, which is 2 2/3, a 2, 1 3/5, 1 1/3, and a 1 foot. And that was pretty much straight, except the top 12 notes repeated the previous 12 notes. So that's fairly interesting for this instrument. You can see there's a lot of cleaning and repair that needs to be done, especially in the tuba. We see, a lot of tape holding up scrolls. The pipes are starting to, bend over, and it is really time for them to be repaired. You'll see here too the swell shades. Now, you'll see they are barely open right now. And that's a problem because the organ console is commanding them right now to be fully open. So the swell motor in this is burnt out. And so one of the other things on the scope of work is to have a new swell shade motor put in so that we can open these shades all the way. So that is a bit of the enclosed grate division here. You'll see some pipes on the rack board. Somebody in the 70s decided to make the 4-foot roar flute into a 2-foot roar flute, and I have put it back to playing at 4-foot pitch where it originally was. So let's go on to the next part. Again, to exhaust the air. Again, open to atmosphere. And now we're on the outside of the airbox. We are just behind the facade. And out here is a lot of the pedal stops. Back there, you can see bottom C of the 16-foot open wood. And on the camera here, it doesn't do justice of just how big that pipe is. It is the largest scale open wood that Austin makes. And in the contract, it's specified to be, I quote, extra heavy. So it makes quite a noise, and you can find all of the loose glass and the light fixtures, they start rattling when you start playing this rank. Right in front here, you see the first open diapason, and this diapason is of 37 scale, which is absolutely huge. You can see that the leather on the lips is rotting away. It's actually falling into the windways and causing some speech problems. So those all need to get cleaned up and put on a voicing jack just to regulate things out. Now, with the diapason being so huge and the second open being significantly smaller in the enclosed part of the grate, part of the scope is to actually add a third open diapason on the grate that will bridge the gap between the two. And it'll be, of course, of vintage Austin pipework. And on the subject of an addition, the other addition that we are going to make is the addition of a vintage tromba. All of the solo reeds in this organ are fairly round in tone, and so we figured something a little more on the bright side of things would add just a little bit more variety to the tone here. Again, all vintage pipework. Over here you'll see a new Austin chest that has a 4-foot coral base on it. That coral base in the scope of work is actually going to be extended all the way down to 16, so we can have a 16-foot principal and an 8-foot octave in the pedal. And that is going to help tremendously in defining the pedal division a bit, something I think is desperately needed here. And you can see the top of the 16-foot sub-bass, which stretches into the manuals. So again, here are the shades of the enclosed grate, just barely open, and hardly lets any sound out. All right, let's take a peek back in. Now, if you're in here for a very first time, it might actually be hard to find the exit. And I know the first time I was in here, I picked the wrong door. Luckily, I found somebody else had the same problem and showed us the way out. Again, it's pretty high pressure behind this door, and we were just at atmosphere, so it takes a little while for that to equalize. Here we go. And then we have to exhaust to atmosphere again so that we can get out. It takes a little while. There we go. And as we come out, we can see the bottom two notes of the 32-foot Borden. Pretty large scale. Another unique thing to this Austin is they actually use pneumatic tremolos, and to make them more effective, they have piping that goes all the way up and back down. And what that does is the more air that is able to travel, the more effective that tremolo becomes. Usually, those organ builders and organists know that Austin usually have their fan tremulants. So this must have been some sort of specific ask when the organ was built. So we're gonna climb up the ladder here and take a look at the chambers. And sorry for the poor camera ship here, as I have to climb with just one hand, so bear with me. So the first chamber we come into here is the solo division. And we have on the back wall here the solo tuba, which again is on its own wind pressure. You can see the division in the air box right here. That is on 15 inches, which is the highest wind pressure in the organ. The rest of the solo is on 10. Right in the front here, we have a beautiful French horn that was made by Gottfried. And then we have a 4-foot harmonic flute, major gamba, gamba celeste, orchestral flute, and a ginormous 8-foot stentorphone in the back. Luckily, we had a little bit of leftover funds in our account this year, and this division here in a couple weeks is actually going to be taken down and completely restored. This is probably the worst functioning division in the organ right now, with just a handful of notes actually still working. So we're very excited to get this back up and going. The orchestral flute is open all the way down to the bottom of the 8-foot. It's just an amazing instrument. So let's go into the next chamber, which is the swell. Now the swell kind of has the brunt of the issues, and was probably the most tampered with in the 70s. In the back, we have a fairly large scale open diapason and an independent 16-foot Borden, the bases of which hang on the ceiling here. And the 4-foot octave is squeezed in there as well. Then we have a 16-foot Posaune, and you'll see that some pipes are missing here. And in the 70s, what they did is they kept the bottom 12 of the Posaune, but they put the 8-foot oboe in its place and went all the way up with it to try and thin the sound out a bit, which I think, in my personal opinion, was quite unsuccessful. They then made the treble end of the original Posaune into a 4-foot clarion. And even though we're missing the 12 pipes of the 8-foot octave, we've started putting them back into their original place. In front here, there is nothing left of the original mixture. You can see that pipes that didn't even exist here are just laying here. Originally, the composition was a 2 2/3, a 2, 1 3/5, and a 1 1/3. So both of the mixtures here on this instrument had a tierce running all the way through them, which gives it just that little bit of extra bite. And the mixture in here was fairly small scale, almost string scale, and it was specified in the contract to be quote-unquote soft. So it gave just a little bit of bite to the chorus. And then we have the original oboe, again, which I've put back in its original position. We decided that having an 8-foot oboe was more important to the repertoire we play here than a 4-foot clarion. Unfortunately, when they did merge it with the posaune, they had opened up the scrolls quite far, so it is much louder than it originally was intended to be, and from that you get some speech issues. So part of the scope of work is not only to make the 12 pipes that are missing, but also to revoice the oboe back to its original tone, if you will. Behind that is the cornopian. That will too go to the shop and just be regulated and cleaned up. Then right here we have a chimney flute. Now what they had done in the 70s is they had made the chimney flute play as a 2-foot stop. And we're in the process of putting that back to play at its original 4-foot pitch. Then we see next to that an 8-foot gedeckt. And then you still see the remnants of that chimney flute that is yet to be moved up. But what used to be in that spot was a VDO, viol d'orchestre. And we have sourced and found a period Austin VDO that is going to go in its place. And then they had made the original 8-foot Clarabella play at 4-foot, and we have moved it back to play at its original pitch. And we have sourced a stopped bass for the rest of the rank to go all the way down. Behind that, we have a VDO Celeste and then a Solutional. So when they had removed the VDO, they left the VDO Celeste, and the only string it could pair with was a Solutional, which isn't as successful in my opinion. So it's going to be very nice to have the VDO back. Really important to us here that we bring the organ back to its original specification. And once it's at its original specification, we're adding just a handful of judicious additions to make the organ just a little bit more flexible, and I talked about those a little bit early. And then we see the classic Austin Vox in a box. So it's its own little chest, it has its own little tremolo inside, and if you so desired, you can close the box on the Vox, and it almost becomes inaudible down in the sanctuary. Again, the swell motors have pretty much become inoperable, and even though the console is commanding full and open, that is as far as they are going. So those will be replaced as well. We're also going to move the chimes to another part of the organ. We found when they were put here that some pitches and some stops on this organ make those ring. It's kind of a sympathetic vibration. So we're going to move those to a part of the instrument where that is less likely to happen. So let's move out of here. Close the door. And let's go up to the very top. Again, I'm sorry for the poor camera work that's about to happen here. Bear with me. As we come up here, this is where the original pedal tuba lived, and you can see it's been replaced with a trombone with wooden resonators. Very unsuccessful. They don't blend with the rest of the instrument, and they're incredibly unstable. You can see that some of the 32-foot bourdon on its side, some more carrying there. You can see the top of that open wood peeking out. A great view of the back of the facade. But as we're up here, we'll go in this chamber, and we're into the choir division here. This division has been completely unaltered, probably because it's a pain in the butt to get up here. But this is just a lovely division. You see an 8-foot English horn, 8-foot clarinet, 4-foot stopped flute, a melodia, dulciana, undamaris, and a really lovely 8-foot English diapason. The only change we're going to make, it's not a change, we're going to add one additional stop up here in the choir division. On that back wall, we're going to mount a small dolce cornet. There are no mutations on this instrument, let alone 2-foot. There's not a single 2-foot on this instrument, as God intended. But for the repertoire, it will be nice to have a small scale cornet. So again, not a revision, but an addition. It's very important that everything stays original and is returned to its original specification. So that's pretty much it for the tour of the organ. If you're interested in helping us support this project, give the church office a call. You can find the number on our website, cotsumc.org. We'd very much appreciate your support, and thanks for joining me on this tour of our wonderful organ. We'll talk to you later.